If people drain you faster than your phone battery, if your mind starts shutting down even while you're smiling and nodding at someone's story, if after a social gathering you feel like someone unplugged your soul from the wall socket, then you're not dramatic, broken, or antisocial. You're simply wired with a psychology that isn't built for nonstop external noise. And your brain has been trying to tell you this for years, even though you keep ignoring the signals because society keeps convincing you that wanting space makes you cold or distant, when in reality, it makes you someone who feels deeply and processes even deeper. What most people never realize is that your need for hours alone after socializing isn't a personality flaw, but a neurological reset button, because your mind absorbs emotional data the way a sponge absorbs water. And once it's full, it can't function until it's squeezed out, and that squeezing only happens in silence. So your exhaustion is not a sign of weakness, but a sign that your system actually works exactly the way it was designed. And learning to honor that is the difference between burnout and balance. Oh, you probably never noticed how your mind shifts during social situations. How even when you enjoy the people around you, there's a low hum of internal monitoring running in the background because your brain is constantly decoding tone, body language, micro-expressions, emotional temperature changes in the room, something psychologists call high social attunement. And while others may simply exist in the moment, you're analyzing, absorbing, and interpreting, which drains cognitive energy much faster than casual interaction. And this is why you often feel wiped out even when nothing bad happened, because your system has been consciously and subconsciously working the entire time. Research shows that people with stronger internal processing systems rely heavily on something called deep cognitive integration, meaning they don't just experience conversations, they store them, break them apart, examine the emotional implications, replay moments to understand what was meant, what wasn't said, and why it matters. And this processing only starts once you're finally alone, which is why solitude doesn't feel like an option but a requirement. It's the moment your mind switches from external awareness to internal repair mode. And without this shift, you feel mentally overexposed, emotionally raw, and sometimes even irritable without knowing why. Your hours alone aren't about avoiding people. They're about returning to yourself, recalibrating your internal state, and giving your nervous system enough space to exhale the tension you didn't even realize you were holding. And psychology says people who need long recovery periods after social interaction often operate with a highly sensitive mirror neuron system, which means your brain involuntarily mirrors the emotions of people around you, absorbing their stress, excitement, anxiety, boredom, or insecurity as if it were your own, creating something psychologists call emotional residue, a kind of leftover mental noise that lingers until you sit in silence long enough for your mind to filter it out. This is why crowded spaces feel overwhelming, why long conversations drain you even when they're good, why too much small talk feels like sandpaper on your thoughts, because your brain is built for depth, not volume. You're someone who notices subtle shifts in mood, tone, and energy, not because you're paranoid, but because your mind is naturally calibrated toward meaning. And when you're surrounded by too many external signals, your neurological bandwidth gets flooded. Alone time becomes your emotional detox, your mental silence, the moment you finally stop carrying what isn't yours. People misinterpret this as being distant or withdrawn, but the truth is your solitude is an act of self-preservation, a necessary return to emotional equilibrium. Another reason you need hours alone is because your brain has something psychologists call reduced dopamine responsiveness, which simply means social stimulation doesn't energize you the way it energizes others. It drains you. Extroverted brains thrive on dopamine spikes from social interaction, but highly introspective or introverted brains rely more on acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter activated by quiet focus, deep thought, and solitary reflection. This is why conversations that jump from topic to topic feel exhausting, while long stretches of peaceful silence feel like nourishment. Your system needs low stimulation to function at its best, and when your day is dominated by noise, conversations, tasks, and social obligations, your brain starts running on fumes. Alone time becomes your neurological fuel station, the place where your mental gears finally slow down enough to run smoothly again. And even if you genuinely enjoy people, enjoyment doesn't override biology. The same way a phone with a smaller battery can still run powerful apps, your mind can still navigate social life beautifully. It just needs more frequent charging breaks. But the biggest reason you need hours alone after socializing is because your brain prioritizes self-repair, something many people overlook. When you're alone, your mind transitions into what neuroscience calls the default mode network, the system responsible for self-reflection, emotional regulation, memory consolidation, and meaning-making. This network only activates in quiet, unfocused environments, which means your emotional healing doesn't happen in conversations, gatherings, or group settings. It happens in the stillness afterward. This is when your brain sorts through everything you experienced, discards emotional noise, strengthens important memories, and restores your inner clarity. Without this downtime, you start feeling mentally foggy, emotionally scattered, or disconnected from yourself because your system hasn't been given the chance to organize itself again. People who don't need much alone time simply don't process depth the same way, and that's okay. Their brains operate differently. But for you, silence is the place where you return to your internal baseline, where you hear your own thoughts again, where your emotional boundaries reset, and your clarity comes back. Alone time isn't a luxury. It's the oxygen your mind breathes. And what most people misunderstand is that your recovery time isn't about disliking people. It's about protecting your peace. You're someone who loves deeply, listens intently, and gives fully, which is exactly why you often feel empty after giving too much. Your hours alone are how your mind refills that empty space. They're the reason you can show up again tomorrow with clarity instead of resentment, with presence instead of exhaustion, with authenticity instead of emotional burnout. Psychology shows that people who honor their need for solitude develop stronger self-awareness, better emotional regulation, and healthier long-term relationships because they approach others from fullness, not depletion. Your solitude isn't a sign of loneliness. It's a sign of emotional maturity. So if you've ever left a gathering and felt the world finally become quiet, if you've ever stepped into your room and felt your soul reattach itself to your body, if you've ever closed a door and felt the weight of everyone else's energy fall off your shoulders, understand that this is your brain doing exactly what it was meant to do, protecting you, restoring you, bringing you back home to yourself. Because needing hours alone after socializing doesn't mean you're broken. It means you feel deeply, analyze deeply, love deeply, and therefore must recover deeply. Your mind isn't fragile. It's simply wired for depth, and depth needs silence. If this spoke to you, then give your brain what it's been begging for all along, permission to rest. Psychology isn't asking you to change who you are, it's asking you to finally honor it. And if you want more videos that help you understand your mind better than you ever could on your own, hit subscribe and keep exploring the psychology behind why you feel the way you do, because your self-awareness deserves room to grow.